I give you the most craziest secret on making compositions ever. I have to make a illustration for a film noir for a game who hired me, and she's actually holding a gun or something. There's always a good trick, what I like to call the story triangle. The most important element, right, which could be an expression, an item, and then we can have two supporting things, which can of course also be either an item or it could be also just stuff from the surrounding, whether people in the background. Literally, I mean a triangle, like we could have maybe her partner here, right, and her face here, and something in her hand, and we create this visual triangle, and this is where we want to have the strongest contrast. So all we need to focus on how can we create a hierarchy in dark versus light, because we cannot play the trick of dark versus light everywhere, because if we do that everywhere, it's kind of like, where should we look? This dark blob here in the back could be also a silhouette. You can be really, really creative with this process. And you see, like, compositionally, this could also work already. And you can do studies and use them as a ignition for your idea or for any idea. Because sometimes it's not the theme or the element, it's sometimes just the value structure you can use for something else, right? I really like the value structure. I like how the light is falling on the arm, the leg, whatever. I give you the most craziest secret on making compositions ever. So I met a lot of artists the last 10 years, right? And I'm kind of like talking to everyone. I love to know the background of people I know. I really love to know how did they become professional artists, because fun fact, most people I met in games and movies were either coming from film, studied a certain design. So they studied product design, industrial design, transportation design. Obviously, if you do a sci-fi vehicle for a movie, you get a vehicle designer. The best people with the best compositions were always graphic designers. And I always ask myself, why? Why are they so good with this? Graphic design classes in school. So what we had to do lettering, right? So lettering basically means we kind of like need to know what is a serif letter, where you have these little knots at the end, which kind of like makes it easier to read when you have a lot of stuff, right? Versus something which doesn't have this. There is actually a fact in lettering that you grid everything, breaking everything apart, and you always work inside of these frames. What I also understood that these people have a very good sense for layout and the arrangement of stuff. So for example, if we would try to put a letter L into this frame, where could we put it that it's the most exciting, but also it feels the most natural? Because there is something which we call balance, and we always have either symmetry or no symmetry. I always imagine this as scale, a very simple scale. There are two weights on each side, right? And when I decide for something symmetrical in my image, it's balanced. But if I decide for something not symmetrical, it's unbalanced. This is much more interesting than the balanced thing. Balance also can mean, for example, stability, but it can also mean power. So every emotion, every word, every time we associate something with something, it makes us special, because you associate things differently from I do, because we have different backgrounds. So if something would attack it or kick it or break it here at the middle, it would basically break and fall down. And this is how I learned composition, since I had to do a lot of environments. I will start to think about putting letters in the frames I have to work in. So let's say I have to do an environment shot, right? And I have to do an establishing shot where I have certain elements in there. There is a mill, a windmill, and maybe I have a river, and maybe I have some mountains. So I have to bring all these three things in there. So where do I place it? So from what we know, this is, I think, the most common process. So you put your first kind of like focal point here. So let's say we can put the windmill here. Then we break this apart again. And then we could say, okay, maybe here's a mountain. Figure out, okay, we have a river, so maybe we use this one here, and kind of like figure out, okay, we have the river going through the image. I was always fascinated how black versus white, so contrast, because I thought, wait a second, when I paint something, it's about contrast. It's about value contrast. So light shapes versus black shapes. So if I would kind of like think about these black versus light shapes already while I make my composition, couldn't I just save a lot of time in between? Matter of fact, yeah, you can. And it could be whatever. So let's keep it with the L. So what I'm doing, I'm thinking about letter. So now I'm thinking about an L. Maybe it's a little plane lying very close over the ground, trying to separate this, but I'm thinking about the letter L. Just say a letter.
Okay, X.
X is a good one, because I find X is actually pretty simple. So it's someone who's about to chop someone else's head off. Please don't do it. And I can make it very dramatic. So I'm just starting with the letter.
I feel like I now have a starting point where I can at least take something that already has a good color composition or choice of colors and apply it to something else.
I remember when I gave you this for the last month and you sent me the first batches, it was like a complete opposite of what you did before. It was more direct. Values were right. The colors were there. Everything was kind of like more simplistic rendered, but it was efficient. I actually thought it would take you much longer to get to the point, but it actually took me like 2 days or something.
I've been trying this for a long time, actually. Like, I've come across this from Ahmed Alduri's MESMAP course. I took the Cynic's portrait painting class and his post-realistic painting class as well. And all of these things, I always heard simplify. And I tried it, and I failed. I tried it, and I failed. And then just suddenly something, I guess, clicked at this point, finally. At a demo you did was like, okay, let's just simplify this. Let's not be stupid about it. So, like, this one on the right took me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get to this point. And it's like, it works from a distance immediately.